So it's that time of year where there's excitement for the holiday and there's also stress and sadness. Some of us experience grief. I found out my favorite aunt back east passed away a couple days ago. Um, so we all have all kinds of emotions going on. It's kind of a roller coaster of emotions because we can be happy for something that we're experiencing and then the next moment feel sad. And so we just pay attention to that. And so our hearts are especially tender. And there's a lot of expectations also around the holidays. And so we just notice those expectations, but we learn to manage them. And so my talk is called Living in the Collective Field of Love. And how do we do that when we're faced with all these emotions, all these things happening? How do we stay in that collective field of love? There's a scripture from the Gospel of John that says, "So we know and rely on the love God has for us. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them." Such a beautiful scripture. We know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. So love is the awareness of my oneness with life. And I like this quote from Marianne Williamson. She says, "Think of the universe itself as a personal note from God to you. God is love, and in sharing God's love, you share God's power. Because love is the awareness of oneness of my life." So we can know that intellectually, right? But there are days when the experience passes by. We can't get the experience. It doesn't go from the head to the heart. So what do we do? So first of all, notice what are the things that take us out of love? And so the first thing I notice is self-judgment. Anyone else have that little voice in the back of the head that says all that chatter? Can you do this? Who do you think you are? Who told you you have the ability to do this? That little voice that sends us judgment and doubt and fear. So it's pay attention and to put that voice in its place. When we have an idea that we want to do something, that's spirit expressing in and through and as us. And so when we have that idea, to move on it and to move in that place of confidence, to move in knowing that we are guided with spirit. So I had that question when I was writing my book, like, oh, should I be doing this? There are so many books out there. Who needs another book? But I knew it was mine to do. I knew it, and I followed that impulse. We often judge the outer world, our behavior, our thinking. We judge what's going on out in the world. That's what the ego does. But when we stay centered in that place of love, in that place of divinity, we're connected with the divine. And so when we start to have those thoughts of doubt, of criticism, of self-judgment, we stop and we change that. I often ask my clients, would you say those things to your best friend? We wouldn't say those to our best friend, so would we say that to ourselves? So we turn to loving ourselves. I love myself because I'm trying. I love myself because I'm willing. I love myself because I am the expression of God moving through. We just have to be willing. God will take care of the rest. So the second thing that keeps us from love is resentment. And it's that place where someone did something or maybe didn't do something, and we have that resentment. A friend was telling me about an incident that happened with her brother, and she was identifying it in great detail. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. When did that happen? She said, in 1989. I was like, it's time to let it go. Let it go. But you know how we hang on to that and we repeat those same stories over again. Universal law states whatever you put your attention on increases. So when we have those stories and we repeat them, we put our attention on them, we're repeating that. We're bringing up all the emotion again. We're bringing up the scenario again. We're bringing that up. And that's not the place love is. So let the past be in the past. The more we repeat, the more we stay in hurt. But when we're in that moment of love, we're in that moment of God. We're in that moment of peace. We're in that moment of harmony. And so that's the third thing, is when we tell stories, when we tell the old stories. In Buddhism, they teach about suffering. And there's two kinds of suffering: inevitable suffering and optional suffering. Inevitable suffering is part of the human condition. If we bump our elbow the wrong way, it really hurts. Or we grab a piece of paper and have a paper cut. That hurts. That's inevitable suffering. There's pain to the body and it hurts. But optional suffering is what we create. It's the story we tell ourselves about the hurt. It's that story we tell. It's how we react to the experience. If I have pain and illness and react to it by saying, oh, why did this happen? Why did I create this? What did I do wrong to have this happen? That's optional suffering. I'm creating more suffering than is necessary. We all have those experiences of waiting for someone or waiting to hear from someone. Have you had that? Where you're waiting to hear from someone and it's not happening? A while ago, I had a client and she had applied for this job and she was waiting to hear. And there was a deadline and she got her application in before the deadline. And then on the next 3 days later, nothing. And then a week later, nothing. And 2 weeks later, nothing. Well, then she started making up all the stories of, oh, I did the wrong thing on the application. I'm not good enough. I'm not qualified enough. She told all these stories. And I just kept saying, you don't know. You don't know what's going on. 2 months later, they called her and they said, oh, will you come in for an interview? Because companies, you never know what's going on with people. You never know what's going on in an organization. But it's so easy to lose that faith. Instead of breathing and staying centered and saying, I know the right thing is happening. I know that I'm in the right place at the right time and the right result will come to me. When we make up stories, it takes us out of the moment and drops us into the emotional conflict. We're in that place. We're not in the place of love. We're in conflict with ourselves. We lose our mindfulness. And mindfulness is simply being in the present. And the best way to get through the holidays or to get through any time is to be in the present. So right now, just take a breath. Oh. Yeah, let's take a breath and sigh. Oh. Now take a moment and look around the room and notice 3 things in the room, maybe that you haven't noticed before. And there's lots here because of all the new decorations. Just pay attention, notice it, notice the color, notice the shape. Now, press your finger into your arm and feel that. Press it into your shoulder and feel that. Press it into your forehead and feel that. When you do those things, you look at something, you touch something, you are aware of it, and listening. That's the third thing, is to listen. Listen. I think that's a heater we're hearing. So you might hear something unusually, there's no traffic. Sometimes we hear traffic. Sometimes we hear noise outside. When you do those things, it takes us out of stress because it reminds us, it brings us back to this present moment. So if you are ever in that situation, or you know someone in that situation, have them do that. Have them look at something, have them touch something, have them listen to something. And that will bring them back to center and back to calmness and back to the breath, and remember to breathe. The other thing is, tell a new story. Let's not tell those old stories. Let's tell new stories. Tell new stories about what you want to happen. That may be an activity that you're planning, or an event that you're going to, or you have family coming that you're excited about. Don't tell about the ones you don't want. But tell about the people and the friends and the family that you're looking forward to have. So tell those stories and stay away from the stories of the past. So what I talked with my client about is to say, I'm grateful to apply for this job. I'm grateful that someone forwarded the job listing to me. I'm grateful I got the resume done and the application done. I accept the highest good is revealed with ease and grace. I accept that the highest good is revealed with ease and grace. Repeat after me. I accept that the highest good is revealed with ease and grace. That's what we want to focus on. That's what we want to stay. So how do we stay in that place of love? The author, Bruce Lipton, in his book, Biology of Belief, he says, neuroscience has established that the conscious mind runs the show at best about 5% of the time. So that means our old programs in the subconscious are shaping 95% or more of our experiences. So it's all the old program. And all those experiences live in the storage bank. And if you think about it, we have 50,000 thoughts a day, or 35 to 40 per minute. That's a lot. If the subconscious mind is running the show, that's a lot of unconscious beliefs happening, right? So we have to work really diligently to be in the moment, to pay attention to what we're thinking and what we're feeling. Because in life, our personal patterns, our thinking, how we act in the world, are undisciplined and unconscious. Bruce Lipton just researched that. So our minds are this swirling mass of mental blocks and emotional conflicts. And so it's hard for us to stay present. We often live in fear of the future. And when we're in fear, the only purpose of fear is to create more fear. So Marianne Williamson says, when we're in fear, we forget who we are. Forgetting who we are, we forget who lives in us. And we lose conscious connection with our power, with that divine power that lives with us. Ernest Holmes says that a trained mind is infinitely more powerful than an untrained mind. So our work is to train our mind to be aware, to train our mind to be present. So what we do is we practice spiritual practices. And spiritual practices are simply prayers, meditation, music. They're ways for us to connect with the divine, to stay in the presence of the divine. When we stay there, we stay in that reminder of God. And it's so easy to forget about that. I remember when I was early on in my spiritual practice years, I noticed that people were having results from their prayers. They were seeing things, and I felt like I wasn't. And so I went to my teacher and I said, is there a secret you're not telling me? Because, I'm seeing people have results, and I don't feel like I'm having the results, the things I want to see. And she said, well, how's your spiritual practice? And I said, oh, it's really good, except Tuesday and Thursday I go to the gym. And then Wednesday and Friday I go to walk with my friend. And so and Monday I have a phone call. But other than that, it's really good. And she made her point that I wasn't practicing. Because it's so easy. Charles Fillmore, here's what Charles Fillmore says in The Revealing Word. He says, it's very important for us to understand the importance of our consciousness in spiritual growth. Divine ideas must be incorporated into our consciousness before they can mean anything to us. An intellectual concept is only part of the practice. So when we intellectualize something, it's only part of the practice. The practice is for us to do the work, is to bring it from the head to the heart. And I remember, so when I was early in my years in science of mind, I was a dabbler. I dabbled in science of mind. I dabbled in the teaching and in the reading and in the studying. I wasn't committed to it. It was several years before I went, oh, I see the power in this. I want to make it work. So the challenge is that for each of us to find that inspiration and that motivation to do our inner work. To not put it off until tomorrow, but what can I do today? Using this simple affirmation. If you take your bulletin home and say that simple affirmation from the Advent calendar, from the Advent prayer, that could be your affirmation. Or to say, I am willing. I am willing for God to reveal my greater good, for God to reveal my healthy body, for God to reveal my wholeness in this moment. The most powerful thing we can do is to build and live in our faith. The work we do keeps us grounded. Then when a crisis happens, we can be prepared. And so now is the time for that. The world is swirling. We hear news instantly. We know things that are happening around the planet, and we can get caught up in them. Our practice is to stay centered, is to stay mindful, is to stay in the moment. Consciousness is going to heal. It's going to heal the planet. It's our consciousness. And every time we're able to raise our consciousness, we're able to raise our awareness, we're able to raise our vibration into love. We're supporting the planet. We're supporting each other. Jean Houston, I had the privilege to hear Jean Houston several years ago, and she said, you have to realize that you are not, and if you get a chance, watch her on YouTube, or maybe you've heard her before, but she's a spiritual teacher, a mystic, an author of many, many books. And she's very powerful when she speaks, and she speaks with a lot of clarity. So you have to hear this strong woman say these words. You have to realize that you are not just an encapsulated bag of skin dragging around a dreary little ego. Rather, you are a being for which the power of nature and spirit are brimming and brewing beneath the surface crust of consciousness, having you go out into the world and profoundly make a difference. If you are willing to do it, the universe says, hot dog, we've got a live one here. Let's put them into a higher office of a higher humanity. In other words, she's saying, we're not just a body dragging around an ego, but we're divine. Each of us is divinity. And that our body is the home of our divinity. That divinity lives in us. And so we have that opportunity to live that every day. So the choices we make that difference for us. So we do that, again, by paying attention, by being willing, by telling a new story. So let's take this opportunity to go into meditation. I invite you to take a breath. And I'm going to read, this is from Bishop Michael Curry. He wrote this and spoke this at the royal wedding of Harry and Meghan. And so just allow these words to wash over you. Think and imagine a world where love is the way. Imagine our homes and families when love is the way. Imagine neighborhoods and communities where love is the way. Imagine governments and nations where love is the way. Imagine businesses and commerce when love is the way. Imagine this world when love is the way. So take a moment, take a breath, and see that love emanating from the heart. It starts out as a speck of light, a flame, and see it illuminate, get brighter and bigger, and it fills your heart. And that light fills your body, and that light emanates from you and connects with the people next to you. Connects, the light fills this building. The light cannot be contained. It moves out of this building into this beautiful neighborhood, into our city, into our state, into our country, and see this light move around the world, enfolding all of humanity in this light. And so we know that this light is the divine. This light is the Christ consciousness that is the source of power in each of us. And so as we go forth, we take this light with us. We go forth, we know that this light illumines everywhere, everything we touch, everyone we meet, everyone we see. So how grateful I am for our time here today. How grateful I am for the awareness of love, the awareness of oneness, the awareness of light. And that in this Advent season is the preparation of the light for the Christ. And so we give thanks for this light within us already. We give thanks for it. We give thanks for the joy, the light, the wisdom, the grace that surrounds us. And we know wherever we are, that light shines bright. We give thanks for this with a grateful heart. and together we affirm, and so it is.